Let's take a look at the number 3461 log dump car and see what we need to do to it. When it's working right, it should work like this. The plate comes up, the logs will roll off of here, and when you release it, the plate falls back on its own. This one is an example of a perfect one. Here's another one that I bought at a train show, and here's what you most often will find that they do after 40 or 50 years. Sometimes a plate will lift and sometimes it will hang up, just like that. I'll show you how to fix this, and I'll show you some other things to look for that'll make it work even better. There's a couple of reasons why this plate doesn't return like it should. The most frequent one is these fixed stakes or posts on the back of the car. They are fastened into the car by these tabs right here. And when they get bent like this, they don't center themselves and they get in the way of the platform coming back down. I'll show you what we need to do to make this the way it was from the factory. We need to bend this so that it has some spring retention ability, like that. That's what it should look like when it goes into the platform. When you put it in, make sure that you put it in with the tabs going straight in so that you don't bend it any more than is absolutely necessary. There. Now that one will stay straight as compared to this one, which is still loose, and it tends to bend over to one side too much. Pull out the other three stakes and adjust the pins on them to make sure that they're all straight and perfect, just like we did the first one. Okay, we've got them all positioned now. Let's check it. Yeah, now see that bottom plate returns nicely there. Well, the reason it does is because the bottom plate is cut out. It's notched right here and here to fit around the posts. Now, they could have made life easier for us if they would have notched that out a little wider, but they didn't. So what we have to do is make sure that the post is exactly perfectly positioned so that that notch falls back on the post every time. This car is now working very well. The other thing you need to look at is under here. On this side of the car, there's a metal rod that goes right down through here that holds on to the 4 traveling stakes. That rod is held in place by these 3 sheet metal retainers that are riveted on the base of the car. Sometimes you may find that this rod has become bent, in which case you need to rotate these sheet metal retainers over. They'll turn just a little bit on the rivets, and you can lift out this whole rod, straighten it, reinsert it, and put the retainers back in place. Now, I'm not going to move these because this one's working perfectly and I don't want to damage what's already okay. But if it doesn't return and you see that this rod is bent up out of its slot, you do need to work on that. One other troublesome condition that some of these older cars will show is that when the car dumps and the plate comes up, the movable stakes roll down to permit the logs to go off. But when the plate settles back to the floor, sometimes these movable stakes may be bent way over instead of returning to a near vertical position. Well, the device that returns those stakes is right here. And when the bottom of the plate right here comes down and pushes on this, it causes the stakes to flip back up. If yours don't, examine the car closely and you may see a bend in the plate right in here where it's humped up right here. If that's the case, then you need to remove these 3 retainers or rotate them over, remove the plate, and just bend it back so that it's flat instead of humped up. The flatter it is, the more vertical these stakes will be when it comes back up. Well, that takes care of all the mechanical problems on the car. Now let's take a look at the electrical problems that you might find. The first thing you need to do is make a good close visual inspection. Look at the wiring on the car. Make sure that the wiring is soft and pliable. And if your car hasn't ever had the wires replaced, I guarantee you it'll be brittle and hard and you need to replace the wiring. Also look for a condition like this, where one of the wires may be in contact with the wheel when the car turns. If that's the case, move the wire away from the wheel and tape it down to the bottom of the frame so that the car truck can still turn, Be sure to leave enough slack in the wire so that it doesn't pull on the truck. Another thing to check on is the operating slide shoes on the bottom of the trucks. Make sure that the spring pressure is even on the slide shoe so that it returns to the flat position by pressing on either end of the shoe. These shoes are fine to use for Lionel track and roll top track. But if you're using high rail track like what you find on Gargraves and Ross and Curtis switches, you need to modify this shoe the way we showed you in volume 1 of Jim Barrett in the Back Shop. That will permit your car to negotiate switches and the sharp-edged rails of the newer kinds of track without tipping the car over or causing it to operate where it shouldn't. Another thing you need to check for is to make sure that the wheels are clean, where there is a sharp corner at the base of the wheel where the flange joins it, like you see in this one here. But if you look at this wheel, you see that there's a buildup of grease and gunk. That may not look significant, but it will cause the car to derail much more frequently than if the wheel is clean. I showed you how to clean the wheels in volume 3 of the Back Shop, where I covered how to safely clean your trains. Once you complete all that work on the log car, it should work just like this.